Hello everyone, we're going to do a new podcast today called the Average Linux User Podcast. That name might be subject to change, to be honest. It's kind of just been thrown together a little bit. But I'm here with...
Hello, my name is Zero Zebra or Zero Zeb or just Zero. Um, and I am going to be working with Tyler doing this podcast with a working title. A little bit about me to start with. I got into Linux when I was about 14, 13, 14. And the story behind that was I dropped my laptop. I dropped my laptop and I had to. I ended up looking at ways to try and make it usable again with a hard drive that was basically dead. And I googled something like operating systems that are smaller than Windows Vista.
That's not that much different from my story, actually. Kind of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, so I got into Linux because you remember how old are you?
I'm now 24.
24. So was you around when they started doing those really bad like netbooks back in the day that all came with Windows?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
The Acer E PCs
Yeah.
existed.
So my mum thought she was doing me a really big favour by buying me one, and it had some. I don't know if it was a standard fully blown Windows, but whatever Windows it was just a tank basically. It couldn't work with anything because I tried Linux a little bit before that and it never really caught me. But then when I had this rubbish netbook, I was like, I have to find something better to use on it. And at the time,
Yeah.
Ubuntu had an edition like specifically catered for that called the Ubuntu
Oh, yeah, the
Net.
netbook
Yeah,
edition.
yeah, yeah. So that was the first
Yeah,
distribution I actually spent any significant time on. To be honest, was that.
yeah, and that's where Unity came from as well, if I remember right, isn't it?
I
Like
don't
when
know.
they first switched over to it.
I'm not 100% sure if that's where Unity came from. I think Unity might have been around at the same time because it was just a package because they sort of phased it out, but I think the packages were still there for a little while where you could have just sort of downloaded them again on your normal Unity desktop. I might be wrong
Yeah.
on that, but I think that's the way it worked.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. My first Ubuntu edition was 10.04.
10.05. I don't even know what the first one. As I said, when I first tried it, I don't know even what initially led me to first try it before the netbook saga. I just tried
Yeah.
it, but it didn't. I didn't. I tried it and then thought nothing of it.
Yeah.
And then yeah, when the netbooks came around, that was when I fully sort of started actually using it.
Yeah. And now you're on Ubuntu still, aren't you?
No, I'm on Arch now, unfortunately.
Oh, you're on Arch, by the way.
By the way, do you know what? That's one of the biggest things that I've started. You know, in the Discord in the help section the other day, right? When that guy was like,
Yeah.
just use Arch when someone was asking for some advice. I stopped myself. I don't ever want to be like this guy, where someone wants some specific help on a distribution, and your help is to go just use Arch. No, Gentoo. It's like, what are you talking about, mate? He's got a specific Ubuntu problem. Installing Arch is
Yeah.
not going to solve that for him.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't think they're all like that though. I just think you see the vocal minority, don't you, sometimes?
Yeah. So we've got a few topics actually to talk about today. I think one of the main ones I want to talk about is the Linux Mint stuff with the whole Snapd
Yeah.
disabling of. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh man. So it goes back to like June 2019, right, in the blog that was written when they were announcing it and when they were talking about the Mintbox.
July. What one? July 2nd, 2019. It says there. Yeah.
I've got June 2019,
Oh, I
but
don't know. It might
maybe
be a
it's
different one. So I've got a
I
June the
don't know.
first. Anyway, yeah. Carry on. It's all good.
Yeah. But they said that they were talking about how they wanted to not use snaps sort of back then because they didn't really agree with the kind of philosophy that was going around it of trying to make things easier while Flatpak does things in a little bit of a similar manner. Um, and then we fast forward to May this year where we have the is it the Linux Mint 20 beta announcement? Was that what it was, or was it
Yeah.
just an update?
Well, it was the It was basically a blog post, wasn't it? Like a monthly news
Oh
thing.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
just the
yeah.
monthly news of May 2020, where um, they basically clarified the position that Snap would not be in Linux Mint 20 either, and they're now going to be making at least the Chromium package explain why it's empty and why it isn't going to be installing anything. Now, I did see a couple of weeks ago somebody tried the beta and they tried to install the Chromium
I
apps
did it.
package.
I did it on a video. Yeah.
Oh, you did it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, but when I saw somebody else try it, it didn't do anything.
Yeah, no, yeah, it didn't do nothing. No.
Yeah, so I think they're still waiting to add that little bit of an explanation script in or whatever. But I mean, I'm on OpenSUSE myself, so I use Flatpaks, and I have used Ubuntu and I have used snaps in that too. But it's kind of like, I don't know. I thought snaps were great when I first tried them,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started looking into Flatpaks and app images and all the other ways that you could get the same applications on Linux. And the more that I dug up about Snap that I could understand anyway, was I was just kind of like, oh, well, like Flatpak doesn't do that, or app images don't do that. You know?
So wasn't Snap originally for like the server side of stuff, and then they've sort of migrated
so I
to
think
desktop? Because it does work really well with command line.
Yeah, so I remember I have an Odroid XU4 as well, and there was an edition of Ubuntu that was made for that and the Raspberry Pi and stuff that I think only installed Snap packages. I think I can't quite remember what that was called. I don't think it was Ubuntu Server, but yeah, it's kind of.
What was it on your
the original
Odroid?
impression that I got was that the Snap packages were there for server admins who didn't want to log in all the time and have to run app updates and worry about things breaking because everything's contained in one location. But then they seem to have kind of flipped that round a bit. I don't know what your impression was.
I don't really like any of the universal sort of packaging formats. If I was forced to use them, I'd use an app image out of all of them.
Yeah.
Flatpak I think works better on a desktop than Snap does, and I think Snap should have just stayed on the sort of. I think it works really well in a command line. I've had to use it for a certain few things. I even trialed the Snap image, the Snap of, because I've set the Nextcloud up, and I first attempted it, and I tried it with the Snap, and it was actually quite good the way it was all packaged in there, and I thought this is kind of what Snap should be for, really, these sort of applications. But for the desktop, I've always just found it a bit slow, to be honest with you. Like, I know the first boot, if you time the first boot, it's like, I don't know, the last time I timed anything, it was just far too long to open up a program. And then when it first came out, I think the permissions thing was a bit janky, wasn't it? So there was like...
Yeah, and it still kind of is, because this is something that I've noticed with Flatpaks, at least. The command line syntax, I don't think is as user-friendly necessarily, but there is an app called FlatSeal that I actually use that you can manage the Flatpak permissions with the GUI.
Yeah.
And that actually is really useful because for things like Steam, for example, I have my Steam library on separate disks, as I'm sure most people do and most Windows users do. And by default, the Steam Flatpak doesn't have access to anywhere outside of its own folder. Now, to try and make it have access through the command line with Flatpak is, I'm not quite sure what it is, but you have to give it an override and specify the folder. And
I think I've done it.
Stuff. Yeah. And then in FlatSeal, all you've got to do is open it up, click on Steam, and then enter the directory that you want it to have access to, and that's it.
So do you use Flatpaks for most of your applications then, or?
Yeah, most of the ones that I access regularly that I can get Flatpak versions for, I do. Because
are you on Tumbleweed or Leap at the moment?
I was on Tumbleweed. I'm now on Leap 15.2. Okay. So I have Flatpak Firefox so that I've got the latest Firefox. I could get away with using LibreOffice out of the repos, but I have that as a Flatpak too. Discord as a Flatpak, Steam as a Flatpak. I think I have FreeTube. I have Library, LBRY.
Do they do a Flatpak of library?
Yeah, there's a Flatpak of Library. It's not an official Flatpak, but it is in the repository.
Why don't you just use their app image?
Because I could not work out how to get to my wallet or something with it.
Right. Okay.
And also because it's in the Flatpak, it's like, oh, I might as well just manage it through Flatpak rather than just having this weird file sitting there on my desktop or something.
Fair enough. So what do you actually think about Linux Mint's decision, though, in the grand scheme of Snap and sort of... Because I think one of the arguments I saw was that they're shooting themselves in the foot, because if you look at the... I think the Snapcraft store, I mean, I'd never visit it, but I think it has like stats of distributions that are using particular packages. And I think one of the arguments was like they're using... Like Linux Mint users are using these packages quite a lot.
Really now?
I think that I'm pretty sure that was on the grapevine of sort of things that I've been watching and listening to. That there was quite a not a massive amount, but there were definitely Linux Mint users that depend on them snap packs. This is what I don't on them on them snaps, if you like. I think, but. I don't know. I'm not too fussed about them sort of disabling Snap, to be honest.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's their decision how they want to give their users their packages, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and they are not the only distribution that is taking this stance with regards to Snap. You know, Elementary OS has made it clear that they want to transition to using Flatpaks for even their own applications, let alone...
Oh, so they're not doing a side loading thing anymore then? I swear they could...
So that still exists, but their own... They want, I think as part of the App Store for Everybody thing that they want to do, all of their own applications are transitioning to being Flatpaks as well.
Because I found the side loading thing a bit janky, to be honest.
Yeah. But at the minute, you can use that with FlatHub or whatever other Flatpak repository that you want to use.
Right.
Whereas, you know, with the snaps, you can only get them from the one place, and that's from Canonical.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, that seems to be the major thing that people are objecting to. And it was interesting because I can't remember what interview or podcast it was, but I saw Alan Pope discussing the reasons behind making at least the Snap backend proprietary.
Yeah. Was it an article or interview?
It was definitely an interview because I watched it.
Was it on like BDL or something?
I can't even remember what it was on, to be honest. I could probably find it relatively easily. But he was explaining that they wanted to kind of, with snaps, avoid the quote-unquote problem of PPAs, right?
Yeah.
With people adding PPAs that then update other packages on their system.
Which is a problem.
Everything else on the system. Which is a problem.
Yeah.
However, there are ways to do that without having to, A, proprietarize your server backend, and B, you know, you need to at least give people the option. So it's like, you know, I kind of thought, well, okay, if they want to go down that direction, then that's fine. But they also, you know, have to realize that, you know, people don't want to be installing apt packages and then suddenly have a snap sitting there, like is the case of the Chromium. When they want to run the apt you know, update or install, they want the apt version generally.
I do think that's a bit sneaky.
Yeah, and I can understand their reasons for packaging Chromium as a snap, but, you know, ultimately I kind of think, well, hang on, Chromium as I think is clarified in the ZDNet article.
Yeah, I've got it up.
Where they said they were talking about wanting to embrace Linux Mint into the Snap thing, which kind of gave me very much embrace, extend, extinguish vibes. But it kind of made me think, well, hang on, this is in the Universe repository as well, which is community sort of oriented / maintained / whatever. And it's like, so if the community wants it in the repo and somebody's going to maintain it in the community repo, then why are you overriding that? With
Pop OS maintain their own Chrome package?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure they do.
I've never really touched Pop OS too much.
Chrome. I'm pretty sure Pop OS maintains its own Chromium package. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I remember.
In their repository, you mean?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of an interesting thing, isn't it? But then, is that in the Pop OS repo officially, or is that in the community repo?
I'd have to double check.
Yeah.
So there's a GitHub page here for Chromium fork from the Debian stuff.
Ah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that you can get just a standard Chromium on Pop OS and their little Pop Store thing or whatever they call it.
Yeah. And it's not in FlatHub yet, which is curious.
No, the only web browsers that are in FlatHub is Firefox on there, isn't it?
Firefox is in there. I think Midori's on there.
Who uses Midori?
Falcon's in there.
Really?
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of others, but I forget what their names are. I'm sorry, developers, if they happen to be listening.
So Midori's in there, you say? Yeah, it is.
I think so.
Yeah, Midori's in there. And you say Conqueror, the KDE web browsers?
Falcon is, yeah.
Falcon, that's the one.
Yeah.
Is it?
It was last time I used it.
How are we spelling Falcon?
With a K.
Yeah, that's what I just did.
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe it's not there now then.
Oh, maybe it's not. Okay.
Okay. So
either way,
to summarise, do you think that people should be annoyed at Linux Mint for making their own decision on what they want to do with their distribution?
No.
No, it is pretty simple, isn't it? Yeah, that's where I'm standing on it. I think I've watched a few things where people were kind of giving him a bit of a hard time, but to be honest, it's kind of in the realms of the whole Linux ethos to just, if you don't like it, don't use it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they've got done.
Yeah, there was, I think Switch to Linux kind of talked about these containerized apps a little bit as well, and he talked about some problems with the Snap Store.
Right.
And he made the very good point that, I mean, in Flatpak this happens as well a little bit, but in the Snap Store, when you install certain apps, A, they're not official variants, but that also happens in the FlatHub store. So, B, when it lists the maintainer, it's not immediately obvious who that maintainer is, because there are some things that are official from Canonical. There are some things that are official from the Snapcrafters, which is the team at Canonical. Yeah. And then there are other apps that are made by members of the team from Snapcrafters.
Isn't it as well with the Snap stuff? You can only have like one sort of like repo for the store kind of thing. Yeah, that's a bit weird.
And it's kind of like,
and the one that is available.
Installing, from this thing where this guy's name is just here, and even though he does work for Canonical, his account's not verified.
Yeah, I understand. To be honest, as I say, I usually always try and just use a native package, and if there isn't one available, I'll just use an app image where I can. And it's kind of easy just to spin an app image of most things now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way I've gone about it. And I guess using Arch at the minute kind of makes me a bit luckier that a lot of the stuff that I need is in there, is in the AUR if not.
Yeah, because it's in AUR. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with the whole Linux and Mint Snap debacle, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
it's up to them.
Yeah, exactly. I think the final word should be, it's up to them, and also you can re-enable it, can't you? I was looking at how I think you have to do like a one-line command or something, and then you can get it back if you really wanted to.
Yeah, which I'm sure they could just put in the installation instructions.
I think they're going to. I think I read that they are going to be, they are going to sort of signpost it for users if they want it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where it should be left. To be fair, I don't think anyone needs to be giving Linux Mint or Ubuntu or anyone a hard time. It's just a decision that they've made.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving on, Ubuntu Studio is now using KDE as its desktop environment, and I actually think that's a good idea. To be fair, I don't know what the argument would be against it. I haven't really read any sort of counter arguments about people like annoyed with the decision. I don't know if you've seen anything like that online.
No, I haven't seen anything along the lines of, complete outrage that they're changing a default desktop environment.
So is it? It's going to be in 20.10, isn't it? And then onwards, it's just always going to be KDE from then on.
From then on, yeah, it looks like that's the case. And I think their reasoning behind it is very sensible and very sound, actually. They were saying a lot of the team actually are already using Kubuntu with the Ubuntu Studio package layered on top of it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, okay, these guys can probably do the best work they can on an environment that they're familiar with.
And I think so it even mentions in the little sort of announcement thingy or the progress on Plasma about how negligible of sort of the amount of RAM and resources that KDE compared to XFCE uses these days, because I think I'm surprised that not more people are realising how much lighter KDE's become compared to these other desktop environments now.
Yeah, but I think there's always that age-old, thing. People remember their past bad experiences more than they remember the good, don't they?
Yeah, I think I still have moments of KDE where it's a bit hit and miss, but for the most part, it is my desktop of choice these days. So
yeah, I don't mind either, because I played with XFCE a little bit, and I played with KDE, and I use KDE. But I think there's certainly, for people doing the kinds of workloads that Studio is sort of aimed towards, the KDE workflow does a little bit more make sense.
Definitely, yeah.
I never really looked into it too much, but the way that they kind of envisage people using activities and having different desktops and all this kind of stuff is kind of like, okay, yeah, like I could see people who do this sort of stuff using this.
Something that confused me though, so I've done a little sort of comparison on the channel of the 20.04 and what's currently available of the daily build of 20.10. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think they say that the difference in RAM is negligible, but I think you have to have a specific amount of RAM to use the newer version. I think
really?
Yeah, there's like a threshold now. So I made a couple of VMs just to sort of see the difference between the two, and I had to bump up the RAM on the KDE one because it was like, we can't install this on anything less than, I don't know what it was, maybe 2 gig or 4 gig RAM or something like that. I mean, I don't think anyone who's using sort of a Studio-esque distribution should really be trying it on anything less than 4 gig RAM anyway. But yeah, I did notice that, which I thought was odd, because as I say, the RAM usage is kind of neck and neck. But then, yeah, if you're using Ubuntu Studio, I don't think you should really be trying to get away with anything. I'd say anything less than 8 gig RAM, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, for the kind of workload that it's designed for, I can't see anybody running it on or trying to do those things on machines with less than 4 gigabytes of RAM these days.
I don't even have a machine anymore. I have machines that are like, that are in my sort of like laptop graveyard, if you like, that have got less. But anything that I use nowadays is there's nothing under 16. My laptop's 16 gig and my desktop's 32. But I'm getting a new kit for the desktop because that's starting to feel a bit cumbersome now as well.
Yeah, I mean the lowest capacity machine that I have is my Raspberry Pi 3. So, you know.
Are you doing anything with those? I remember you sent me a message about them. Are you actually?
No, I need to send them to you. Actually, I need to bundle them all up and send them to
What
you. I
was
just haven't managed to
what was you using
to
them
get
for,
them
or what
together.
did you purchase them for?
I originally got one to use as my Nextcloud server, but 1 GB of RAM or is it 2 GB that the Raspberry Pi 3 has? I can't remember.
I think it is too. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to use that with OpenZFS and the overhead of trying to run a Nextcloud server is not a great idea.
No, it doesn't sound very good, does it?
No.
Oh dear. Well, so that's. I guess there's not really much more to say about the KDE Ubuntu Studio thing. I'm supportive of it. I think it's a good idea, and I might even have just a dedicated machine for just that. To be fair, because a lot of what I do on the channel, I need a lot of what. Don't you have like the low latency stuff as well? And
yeah, they have the low latency / real time kernel.
So yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I think that's kind of where I'm going to leave it at that. I mean, I've checked out the daily builds. Obviously, it's very early days at the moment, but it seems to be going okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool.
So what else have we got? So what I wanted to ask you actually, how do you feel about unnecessary, quote unquote unnecessary Linux distributions? So if you go on to say DistroWatch, for example, you'll find.
Let's go on to DistroWatch.
All right, let me load it up. So what have we got? I don't. So at the moment we've got Calculate Linux. I don't know what that is. Robo Linux. I've said my piece on Robo Linux, so I'm not even going to go into Robo Linux. Here we go. This one, Super Gamer. What's Super Gamer?
Where is Super Gamer? Let's take a look, man. Like, oh, this is the one you told me about, right?
Yeah. So I don't. Yeah. I'm not sure what this is doing.
Yeah, Super Gamer is a live DVD currently based on Ubuntu. Okay, it is intended to showcase gaming on Linux.
I mean, we've already got a lot of distributions that kind of do that fairly well. And okay, just taking a little sort of cut down a little different avenue. What do you think about distros that market themselves as for gaming?
I mean, it's like generic gamer branding, right?
Well, yeah.
You know, there's this whole meme that, like, yeah, you can't just build a computer with normal RAM these days if you want a game on it. You have to have gamer RAM. So you have to have RGB lights in the side of it, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I think a lot of times, you know, places that sell hardware at least do attach, you know, gamer to things a lot. And I think that's kind of leaked into the distros a little bit.
There's a couple that have done it right. I really liked Salient OS, but that doesn't just market itself as like a gaming distro.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. And I remember that I checked out, what was it?
Regatta OS?
Yeah, the Brazilian, I think it's from Brazil. I think it's Brazil.
Yeah.
I thought that was good as well because they had the storefronts there and everything ready for, you know, to use. But these, there are a few that, I mean, Super Gamer just sounds, I don't want to be mean, but it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it doesn't look amazing.
So I guess getting into it, so what do you feel about all of these distributions that are, I'm gonna say unnecessary?
I mean, not singling out just
no,
but
using
just it as an example of the kinds of distributions that we're talking about.
Yeah.
There are a lot of, I want to say, distributions that aren't necessarily even in like the top 50 on DistroWatch or whatever, but they exist to try and do something that is either done already by a more popular distribution.
Yeah.
And I kind of think sometimes the customizations or the layouts that they apply, you could pretty much just release a script to do it for you.
I think people have done that as well.
Yeah, and it's like using, I think, Nitrux as an example.
Yeah.
You know, his desktop layout and stuff like that, you can pretty much install that from the GitHub, and you could probably script it as well to have an install script from a certain version of Ubuntu or whatever.
So I really like Nitrux.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I kind of get sometimes a little bit frustrated when I see that these distros have a new release or something like that, because generally they seem to be sort of 1 or 2 man bands, if that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like those 1 or 2 people could be contributing directly to upstream.
I think the ones where they're like just like 1 man or 2 man, trying to sort of get these distros out. I think they're spreading themselves too thin.
Yeah, it really spreads thin their resources and their capabilities. But I understand that sometimes it might be like a learning exercise for them.
Yeah, but I wouldn't publish every one of my learning exercises for the outside world, because I'd probably be rather embarrassed.
Your own ISOs every 6 months or whatever, would you?
No, I would. I mean, you might do it. I mean, I've done little things like that just as a hobby, right, in my free time. But I would never put it online and be like, I use this new distro. It's not really a new distro, you're just spinning an ISO of something else.
Yeah, you're just basing it on something else.
And be like, use this, and then I couldn't imagine the headache it would be for people to go, when are you going to update this? This isn't working. But it's like, why are you doing that to yourself?
Yeah,
and I think,
especially when most of the time probably those bugs that are reported are probably not just specific to your distro. They're probably inherited from upstream.
Yeah, exactly. And then when people are trying to troubleshoot it, a lot of people, they will, I don't know, so if you like, have you ever met someone that's like just got into Linux and they're on the most weird distribution, and you're like, why are you using that? Because
I had this exactly the other day.
Right.
I think I told you about this already. The guy that he said he was new to Linux, and yet was using basically what his quote-unquote friend had recommended to him. And his friend,
yeah, you told me, yeah,
had said to use Parrot Home Edition, and I'm like, why?
That is a rather weird one, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's just like...
Wasn't his friend some elite level pen tester though, or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, obviously. But yeah, it's just like, sometimes they obviously friends do listen to friends, or at least I'd like to think that they would. But then also, like, you're still an independent person. You could go and do your own research.
Well, it's not even hard to research nowadays either. Like, if you just typed in, I haven't done it in a while, but if you was to type in Linux to Google, Linux distros, the ones it's going to probably give you are going to be the mainstream distros.
Yeah, it's going to be Ubuntu and its various...
Let's have a look. Let's do it. Let's see what it comes up with.
Well, you do it into Google, and I'll do it into Ecosia.
Okay, cool. Let's go for
compare,
it.
Right?
Right, here we go. So I've got it up now, and the first sort of results you get are Ubuntu, Arch Linux, Fedora, Deepin actually. I've quite.
Oh.
Kubuntu again, Ubuntu, Mageia for some reason. Budgie, which is not really a distro, it's a desktop.
It's a spin, but yeah.
Body, however you actually meant to pronounce that. What do you think of Body Linux?
I mean, it fills a niche.
Yeah, I guess. Bunsen Labs, I was using that the other day actually. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't think we're taking the first few anyway. You are getting for the most part the most mainstreamy distros that are out there.
Yeah.
And then the first article that's linked is a Tech Radar Best Linux Distros for Beginners. So it's not even like you need to do any real research.
Yeah. Yeah. That Tech Radar link is actually the second link for me.
What have they got on here? Then so they've got, what's their number one? Ubuntu. Yeah. So I've been sort of. I'd always recommend Ubuntu to someone if they're like, oh, what to use. I'll be like, just use Ubuntu.
Mhm.
I probably still would recommend Ubuntu as the number one, but I'm slowly starting to recommend it less.
Really?
Yeah, and not for any particular reason. It's just I don't know. I think there's other options. I think, like, to be honest, I actually would probably recommend Linux Mint these days to set. I got an email actually. So on my YouTube channel, obviously there's you have like your email for business inquiries or whatever. Email. And I'll get random emails of people like, what distribution should I use? And I'm like, oh my god, So I'll tell them like, well, what level of sort of Linuxy are you at? And I'll always say just either use. Well, I'll tell you what I do. If they're coming from Windows, because they'll always say that, I'll say, so you're used to the traditional taskbar at the bottom, application launcher, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, we'll just use Linux Mint with Cinnamon then. Whereas if like they're a bit more sort of wanting to try something else, then I will say Ubuntu with just the standard GNOME desktop.
Yeah.
So I think for the most part, if I'm recommending any distributions, it's going to be for new users. It's going to be Ubuntu or Linux Mint, depending on where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Oh no, you got OpenSUSE. Your distro's
OpenSUSE is fourth on the list.
I'm quite surprised about that actually.
It's ahead of CentOS, which is interesting.
Yeah, there you go. So I've actually been running a little poll on the channel to see what people are using out of people who are watching, just to see how many people are going to throw out some kind of strange choices. So when I made the poll, I made it. I picked the most mainstreamy ones and tried not to have options there for like every single weird offshoot little distro, because it would just be
the entirety of the distro watch list.
Exactly, but I had like a little. I've left other, so if people want to write other, and if there's enough sort of votes for other, I'll tally it up at the end. But so far, Manjaro's still. I know I've only got 130 responses at the moment, but I was surprised that Manjaro's coming out ahead. I'm gonna let it go to about 1,000 and then try and sort of work out something from those results.
Yeah.
But there are some weird. I mean, people have put MyoLinux in the other, so that we've got one vote for MyoLinux. Bodhi's on there, and Slackware. I didn't expect to see Slackware on there, to be honest.
Wow.
I think that's one.
I don't expect to see Slackware anywhere these days.
A new distro just came out, didn't it? Based on Slackware, I'm sure.
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it was, Slackl or something. Here we go. I've got it on the distro watch page. Slackl is a Linux distribution based on Slackware Linux and Salix OS. I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, that's one for the distro spinner.
I might actually put it on there. I'm going to start the distro spinner. What day is it today? I'm losing track of time. Is it?
It's currently a Wednesday.
It's currently a Wednesday. Okay, I'm gonna start it back up on the weekend, and then if we decide what day we're going to do this on as a regular thing, you can have like a little sort of chime in about the distro as well. Obviously, you don't have to do it for a week, because no one's as insane as me as dedicating a whole week to a random distribution. But yeah, that could be quite cool.
Yeah. I mean, it might be there for a week. I just might not use it.
So you're using your phone, because I bought the PinePhone, and I've put the USB ports on it. What you've got? What is it? The EOS thingy? What is it?
I've got the Fairphone 3.
Fairphone 3, right?
And I have put ELO or EOS or whatever. And
how is that going for you?
It's going really well, actually. Now that I've fixed the slight physical problem I had with the phone, which was I kept getting these weird like touchscreen glitches, and I actually disassembled the phone and cleaned the screen contacts with some like alcohol solution. And since I did that, it's actually been really good. But I had those touchscreen issues before I put ELO on there anyway, so it's not ELO's problem.
Have you?
It's been working out really well, actually.
And so you're gonna just assume you was using Android before that?
Yeah, it was just I think it was like as close to AOSP Android as they could make it.
What phone was it then?
The Fairphone 3.
Oh, right, okay,
yeah.
So I've been using the PinePhone on and off as like a secondary phone. It's all right. It's not quite. It will never be ready. Well, to say never. It's not ready to be your phone at the moment. Not for me anyway.
Yeah.
The battery life is quite bad. But then I did get the Braveheart edition or whatever they called it for the intended for developers or whatever. So I think they've got a community edition out now, which I think addresses some of the problems that you get with the actual the Braveheart edition or something. But saying that, I love the idea of it. So if it worked as intended, like everything was all polished up, I'd throw my Android phone away today.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Even just little random things like being able to mount like SSH, like the SSH file system thingy, being able to just mount that on your computer and then transfer files over. It just feels so much.
Yeah.
It just feels amazing on your little phone.
Really.
Yeah, and I think I'm tempted to get the community edition as well to see if that is a bit further down the line of being able to be used as a sort of a daily phone thing. But how do you feel about the whole Linux on mobile idea?
So I think it's potentially a great idea, but I think it suffers a little bit from the same problem as desktop Linux in so much as what is the packaging format for apps going to be? What is the standardized way that people are going to make apps for these phones going to be?
That is a problem.
Because, there's at the minute, the reason that I kind of keep my Android phone and don't want to jump ship to a Linux phone is things like banking apps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I could just log into the online banking on my Linux phone, but it's like, sometimes some of the banks have like the two-factor thing where you have to log into their app to get the code to log into your online banking. So it's kind of like, if you don't have that, then what do you do? And there's institutions like that I don't think would make an app unless they could just make one and it would cover all of those devices. And let's be honest that, Android and iOS aren't going anywhere for anytime soon, are they?
I thought I read somewhere that they're going to try and get like an Android sort of like a layer that would let you run like APKs or something. I don't know if I just dreamt that up though.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't really keep up with Android news too much. But yeah, I mean, it seems like a really good idea if you want a phone at the minute anyway that you can kind of hack around with and make some cool stuff with, and you want to be able to get your phone calls, text people, and use a couple of like internet services.
So that all currently works.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can make calls on it. I can send texts and everything else. Just the app support, like you mentioned, it's kind of non-existent. I mean, they've got an app store. I don't know what they call it off the top of my head. Like an app front for sort of apps, but they have like web wrappers for like things like Telegram and stuff. But it's not really like a native application. So I think, yeah, I kind of agree with you. To be fair, what is going to hold it back is the whole app ecosystem of just what you're going to be able to run on it. To be honest.
Yeah. But we'll see. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow, do you?
I haven't really checked out what's the fancier one that's more expensive. The
Librem phone.
I've not really checked out any of that, to be fair. Maybe that has maybe that tries to do things a bit differently. But again, it's still going to be victim to the whole app stuff anyway. So.
Yeah, and from what I can gather, the Librem sort of business model is providing services themselves as a drop-in replacement for certain other services,
right?
Which is kind of what Elo's already sort of doing as well. I mean, so Librem, I know that they have a VPN service that they want to provide or are providing,
what do they call that then?
Like social network instance, which is Mastodon.
Ah, okay, yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like, are they gonna then let people install apps from elsewhere? Which is one of the strengths that I like about this Elo, is because they have their own cloud servers for doing the contact syncing, the photo backup, the kind of stuff like that. But they will still let you install apps from other sources, and it ties into the micro G framework.
So is the Librem stuff called Librem One with the VPN and everything else? Am I on the right thing?
Yeah, it's like a service, a
Yeah.
subscription thing that you
I didn't know
buy
they even
into.
did that. Huh, interesting. I think to wrap it up then, I want to know what are your like pet peeves as a not on just Linux but like the community as well. Like, what do you think we need to do better at? What do you dislike?
So I'll go like one from each. I'll go like my least favorite thing,
Go for it.
and then like the middly thing, and then like the best thing. So my most annoying, like the thing that irritates me the most is when like people either don't do any research themselves and just take things verbatim from whatever people have told them.
Yeah.
So like I've seen umpteen people posting like, in forums on Reddit or whatever, like, oh, I want to try Linux, what distro should I use? And they listen to all of the people in the comments that say, oh yeah, like you should use Manjaro, or you should use Arch, or you should use Mint, or whatever. It's like, no, like I know these people are like asking for your help, but also like they need to be capable of making a decision themselves.
Yeah.
And then, these people, like, when they come in and they suddenly want help, it's kind of like, oh, like, come on, like you need to know some basics before you start on your journey, but equally the counter side of that is the beauty of the Linux community is that there are always people available to try and help other people, even if they're not necessarily using that distribution, and if they have the knowledge of the thing that the person has an issue with, then generally I'd like to think that we're a helpful bunch of people.
Yeah, I'd say we are.
And I think because you're allowed to understand how the code works and how it runs for your device and how it all integrates a lot more than you are on certain other platforms that shall remain nameless, I think that gives you a little bit of an advantage sometimes.
No, I'm with that, yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
My dog's just jumped up on my lap and she's winding me up.
Oh dear.
Yeah, she's right, she just wants a couple of minutes of fame or something on the...
She's like, I want to use Linux too.
On the YouTube. She wouldn't know what she's doing, mate. She's the right doofus, this dog. So what did you get to the middle of the road thing?
I guess like it covered the whole spectrum really, because there's always there's always the people that are like a little bit less advanced, a little bit more advanced, and that's where the average comes in, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think I don't know if I have anything that really annoys me about Linux as an ecosystem. I think any complaints that there are, I think sometimes the community can be a bit unwelcoming to, well, certain parts of the community, if you like, can be unwelcoming to new people, which I find weird because surely you'd want this thing to grow into something a bit bigger than what it is. And I think if you're sort of being a bit, pushing people aside, I don't know. It seems counterintuitive to me that, but other than that, I think we're doing all right.
Yeah. But there's always room for improvement, right?
100%, yeah. So I think moving forward, because we're going to try and do this once a week, I'm going to try and get people to give some random questions or topics that they might like us to talk about. So I think if they want to, I'll leave a link in the description to the Discord, but also if you just want to leave a comment on this video or get at us anyway, then if it's something worth talking about, we'll probably chuck it in the sort of topic notes of the show and touch on it and stuff like that. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything. It might be worth making a section in the Discord server for the podcast.
Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll do that while I'm editing this podcast down and making it just a bit prettier for the YouTube thing. I'll do that today. I'll probably have to do it in the evening now though.
Yeah. But
cool.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get it going.
So I think we'll stick with the Average Linux User podcast name for now. It's still gonna. I might change it.
I might change it.
It's
a working title.
It's a working title. All right. So cheers, guys. See you all later. Do you want to say goodbye and all that nonsense?
Yeah, I might as well say bye to everybody
There you
and
go.
see you next time.
Professionals. Right, let's take it easy.
Take care.